take out your phone. If it connects to 5G, then somewhere inside it, woven into the way it talks to the nearest tower, is technology owned by the most sanctioned company on Earth, Huawei. The company America banned, blacklisted, and tried to erase. And here is what almost nobody realizes. Huawei holds roughly 1 in 5 of the world's 5G patents, the largest share of any company alive, which means nearly every 5G phone sold anywhere can carry a royalty, capped at $2.50, flowing quietly back to Shenzhen. The numbers are real, the contracts are signed. But this is not really a story about phones at all, because the most surprising part of this story is who ends up writing the checks, and why they legally have no choice. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how a blacklisted company became the landlord of the airwaves. It starts with a toll booth you have never seen. So how big is this toll booth, and who exactly is paying? For most of the smartphone era, patent royalties were a Western game. Qualcomm famously charged up to $7.50 per device, a fee that triggered years of litigation with Apple. Nokia and Ericsson ran their own booths. The understanding was simple. The West invented the airwaves, therefore the West collected the rent. Then, on March 16, 2021, Huawei walked up to the booth and took the keys. The head of its intellectual property department announced that every multi-mode 5G smartphone on Earth would owe Huawei a royalty, capped at $2.50 per unit. Not just phones. $1.50 for 4G handsets, 50 cents for every Wi-Fi 6 device, up to 75 cents for the smallest connected sensor. If it talks to a network, it can owe Huawei money. And the scale of collection is genuinely hard to picture. Around 200 companies now hold licensing or cross-licensing agreements with Huawei. More than 2 billion non-Huawei smartphones have used its licensed 4G and 5G technology in just 5 years. That is more devices than there are people in North America, South America, and Europe combined. In 2022 alone, the royalties came to $560 million, and it flows into a 5G licensing market worth an estimated $15 billion a year. Even cars pay now. 15 automakers, including Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW, signed royalty deals covering 15 million of the 70 million cars built each year. But the toll booth is not the real story. The real story is how a company from Shenzhen got to build it on a road the entire world is forced to drive down. And strangely enough, America helped pour the concrete. Because here's the thing about a toll booth. It only works if there is no other road. And in wireless technology, the road is called a standard. Every phone on Earth speaks the same radio language because an international body called 3GPP, packed with engineers from every major tech company, votes on which mathematics becomes the rule. Whoever's math wins the vote owns a piece of every device built afterward. Which raises the question, this whole story turns on. How did Huawei's math win? It started with a paper almost nobody acted on. In 2008, a professor named Erdal Arakan published a new approach to data transmission called polar codes, the world's first channel coding scheme to push right up against Shannon's limit, the hard ceiling on how fast information can move without errors. Think of Shannon's limit as a speed of light for data. Arakan had found a way to drive right up to the edge of it. It was brilliant, it was celebrated, and in the West, it stayed on paper. Huawei spotted the potential in 2010 and did what it has always done. It poured roughly 15% of its entire annual revenue into research, year after year, turning an academic theory into working silicon. Therefore, when 3GPP meeting number 87 convened in 2016 to choose the coding schemes for 5G, the polar codes championed by Huawei won the control channels, while the Qualcomm-backed LDPC codes took the data channels. Read that again. The instructions that coordinate every 5G connection on the planet now run on mathematics a Chinese company industrialized. This should not have been possible. But it happened in a single vote. 2 years later, Huawei's founder hung a medal struck by the Paris Mint, set with a red baccarat crystal around a Rican's neck. And this is the part I have been building to. The single fact that reframes everything you have heard so far. The weapon Washington built to destroy this company is the very thing that locked these payments in, because in May 2019, America fired its biggest shot. The Commerce Department placed Huawei and 70 of its affiliates on the Entity List, severing it from American chips and software. And the shot landed. Huawei's consumer business collapsed by 50%, down to $33.5 billion, dragging total revenue down 29%. Its phones vanished from Western shelves. By every visible measure, the ban worked. But the ban had a blind spot, and it was enormous. Patents are public documents, filed in open databases in every major country. A sanction can block a chip shipment. It cannot unpublish mathematics, and it cannot erase ownership of a standard. Huawei's executives said it plainly at the time. American sanctions could not affect its ability to license with U.S. companies because the patents are publicly available. The ban shut Huawei out of selling to America. It could do nothing about America buying from Huawei. Therefore, look at who pays. Huawei pressed Verizon, a company that has never even bought Huawei equipment, over 238 patents, demanding more than $1 billion, and took it to court in 2020. The dispute ended in a settlement. Amazon signed a cross-license that resolved pending litigation. Most premium Android phones sold in the global market, including in America, run on licensed Huawei technology. And here's the reversal that captures it all. Of the roughly $6 billion Huawei itself once paid in royalties, 80% went to U.S. companies. That river now flows in both directions, and the new current runs east. Every royalty dollar is plowed straight back into Huawei's research. America did not dismantle the toll booth. It guaranteed the toll would fund the next one. So what does all of this actually mean? It means the 5G story was never about phones. It was about the rulebook. Whoever writes the standard collects from everyone who follows it, automatically, legally, for decades, and no sanction ever drafted can reach inside a published patent. As of the latest industry ranking, released in January 2026, Huawei still sits at the top of the 5G patent race, and analysts already expect Huawei and Qualcomm to carry that influence straight into 6G, where the next round of votes will decide who owns the next 20 years of connection. The playbook from 2016 is being run again, right now, in standards meetings most people will never hear about. The patents are real, the payments are real, and the implications are only beginning. America banned the company patented the future. And every time a 5G phone lights up in New York or Los Angeles, somewhere in Shenzhen, the meter is running.